Hey there, Bloomers and friends. Rev Kev coming to you from the Bloom office. I'm just back in the office from a quick trip to Riverside, where I had lunch with 6 other UCC clergy, the associate pastor at the Riverside First Church, pastor at San Bernardino Congregational UCC, the pastor at Mentone, the pastor at San Dimas, and the pastor in Temecula, Hemet, the pastor in Hemet. So we had a good time in a little restaurant in Riverside. It was a good drive over and good drive back. I always appreciate connecting with colleagues in the Inland Empire. A lot of what we do is social, but there are some touching base with one another about particular aspects in parishes, just basically looking for a little collegial support, maybe some advice, and for us to have an opportunity to support somebody who's experiencing something that is maybe a little painful or unpleasant. And I guess the reason I want to even mention that is that I typically come away from those meetings knowing how fortunate I am to be at Bloom, and that's a credit to the work that we've done as a congregation to try to be a non-toxic environment. I shouldn't say try to be, to ensure that we are not a non-toxic environment, and also the growth that has happened and the abilities of people, particularly the kinds of things of people taking responsibility and seeing things through, and the way that we care for one another with God's love in general and on an individual basis in our relationships with each other. Speaking of relationships, I'm sure that people have looked ahead on the calendar to see that this Sunday is the second Sunday in May, and so that means it's Mother's Day in the United States and Mothering Day in other places. Maybe not on this day, but sometime around this time. It is interesting to me that I was surprised to learn two things since I've been a part of the Bloom congregation in the last 15 years, looking up and learning about Mother's Day, both historically as well as personally. I grew up with Mother's Day being very sentimental, and it being a little bit of a sad time in our home because my mother's mother passed away when my mother was very young, so she always kind of felt a little bad that she didn't have have as long of a time with her mother. That's one of these things. If penicillin had been around, my grandma Lucy would have most likely survived the heart disease that she had at the time. But so it was a little sad in our house growing up, and I tried to be the loving son, as did my sister, and we tried to care for our mother. But what I learned along the way was that Mother's Day didn't start out as a sentimental day. It actually started out way before the time it became known for what it is now. It started out as a day called Mother's Work Day, and it was a time after the Civil War for women to get together to try to rebuild in their communities and clean up. Basically, it started out cleaning gutters in order to try to get rid of pestilence and illness in the communities following the Civil War. And mothers would take this day and just basically try to clean up their neighborhoods. It's called Mother's Work Day. And then we know maybe the story later on, how it became one woman's time of recognizing her own mother and then having a church service to do that. And I think actually one of our members is well aware of where that church started in West Virginia, if I have it right. And then it's grown into what we have now. But I would like to offer that we understand Mother's Day not only as a day of sentimentality, but also a day of doing good in our community, or having it be a time when we understand that it actually started out to be a time for justice and a time for community development. The other thing that I learned along the way is in our congregation, with the people that we have, it may be like many other congregations, and that's that not everyone had a great relationship with their mother. I remember one time we sang a hymn that's in the New Century Hymnal. We'll sing it again this week. And there is a line that talks about difficult relationships with a mother. And in the prayer time following our singing that hymn, one of our members, who has since passed away, basically said, I'm really glad that we sang that hymn because it honored the fact that I didn't have a great relationship with my mother, and my mother really didn't treat me very well. Now that's kind of sad, but it's honest. It isn't kind of sad, it is sad. And it's honest, and it's real, and in that way we were able to provide an opportunity for healing and community with this particular Bloom member at the time. So those are some key understandings and learnings I've had about Mother's Day over the years. I'm sure you've had some too, and I'd be happy to hear those if you ever want to share those with me. So we do hope that you'll be with us this Sunday. Our Mother's Day will be a time of honoring and celebrating, as well as a time for reflection and prayer. And we're looking forward to the music that Dennis Marine will be bringing. And we're also looking forward to a special hospitality time that Elaine Wong-Meyerhofer is hosting. So please come be with us. If you can't be with us in body, be with us in spirit. And as always, please keep us in your prayers.